The earth,
the sea,
the atmosphere, all are delicately balanced.
Generations of human activity
have created unwanted effects,
impacting on our planet
and creating considerable challenges.
But we now have more information than ever before.
Built on decades of innovation and research,
scientists around the world
are sharing their data,
collaborating with each other
to identify the most pressing issues facing us today
and forecast the impact they'll have,
increasing our understanding of the world
and finding the solutions we need.
New ideas for a sustainable future.
From urban environments
to natural habitats.
It's about looking at the bigger picture,
as well as the tiniest detail.
Analysing,
testing,
measuring, recording,
gathering the data we need.
From close to home
to more extreme environments.
It takes perseverance,
imagination,
and the occasional cup of coffee.
And when we share all our findings,
adding to the world's collective knowledge,
new ideas will emerge,
helping us to tackle the issues of today and tomorrow. UCD Earth Institute. Take a look at the world from a different perspective.
Hello, my name is Professor Tasman Crowe. I'm a marine ecologist in the School of Biology and Environmental Science at UCD and director of the UCD Earth Institute. Throughout my career, I've been interested in the natural world and the challenges we're facing as a society to try to understand, conserve and sustain it. Over the years, it's becoming increasingly apparent that humankind is causing enormous change to our world, and there is now widespread recognition of the growing impact of climate change, pollution and the loss of biodiversity, which is the species and habitats we depend on for clean air and water, food, drink, timber and pharmaceuticals, and indeed our fundamental health, well-being and culture. Recognition of these challenges has led to the establishment of the Sustainable Development Goals, which were developed by the UN with the involvement of people from all around the world. They recognise not only the damage we're doing to the environment, but also the fact that so many people around the world lack the basic provisions and rights that we might take for granted. They include targets for improvements to things like climate and energy, environmental quality, education, equality, alleviation of poverty, and the ways in which society and industry are organised and governed. They're shaping policies and activities for governments, communities, and other organisations around the world, so that we can all hope for a better, more equitable and sustainable future. So what is the UCD doing to contribute? Well, it has just launched its new strategy, which includes creating a global sustainable society as one of its core themes. That means that the university is committed to directing research and education to addressing these challenges through the discovery and application of sustainable solutions, and also to changing the way the university works to ensure that our own community lives as sustainably as possible. The Earth Institute makes an important contribution by bringing together researchers with interests in sustainability from across the university so that they can combine their expertise and link with other institutions and organisations in Ireland and around the world to find solutions and make a difference. We have over 400 members and associate members with expertise in the sciences and engineering, in social sciences, policy and governance, in the humanities and in business and economics, who work together on themes including water, climate, crops for the future and sustainable communities. We've also helped to establish a unique new degree programme which enables students to learn something about all three pillars of sustainability: environment, society and economy, and gain a specialisation in one of them and an understanding of how to work in interdisciplinary teams to address sustainability challenges in the real world. Sustainability is something we can all contribute to. In the next section, Mark Clare and his colleagues will tell you more about a project to involve everyone, including you, in developing a wonderful work of art to raise awareness about extinction of rare species. Mark is artist in residence with the Earth Institute in partnership with Parity Studios and Dunleary Rathdown County Council. After that, we've got a few short videos from UCD researchers who've been answering questions from school children about their local environment. You can find more videos, interviews with our researchers and information about our work on our website, www.ucd.ie/earth.
Many animals function as important pollinators. These include bats, birds, and insects. Bees are considered one of the most important pollinator groups, and there are approximately 20,000 species of bees in the world across all continents except Antarctica. Bees are such important pollinators as they need to collect pollen to raise their larvae and feed on nectar as adults, meaning their entire life cycle is dependent on collecting food resources from flowering plants. Pollination occurs whilst bees are collecting these resources, moving pollen within or between flowers. It is this pollen transfer that is responsible for successful plant reproduction of many plant species. Pollination is important for maintaining the global biodiversity of wildflowers and crop species. Of the 100 crops that supply the majority of the world's food supply, 71 are pollinated by bees, with the value of pollination estimated at €153 billion worldwide. Animal pollinated crops are important for providing a balanced diet, being vital for providing vitamins and other essential nutrients. And whilst not all food crops require pollination, some crops benefit from pollination for an improvement in quality and yield. And although many crops do not require pollination for the food parts we consume, they still require it for their reproduction so we can continue to produce them. Because of their contribution to crop and wild plant pollination, bees are essential for maintaining our health and global biodiversity.
Hi, my name is Mark Clare, and I'm a visual artist, and I'm very interested in learning about how climate change and habitat loss is affecting our local biodiversity here in Ireland. Biodiversity is all the different plant and animal life found in a particular area, and the more we have, the better it is for us. And recently, I've been learning about solitary bees and the important role that they play in our local biodiversity. In Ireland, we have 99 different bee species, 1 honeybee species, 21 bumblebee species, and 77 solitary bee species. Solitary bees are bees that live alone and not in a hive or a nest like honeybees or bumblebees. And one such solitary bee is Osmia orelanta. Osmia orelanta is only found along the east coast of Ireland, and it is also the only bee in Ireland that makes her nest in empty snail shells.
My name is Dr. Tara Duralgan, and I'm a scientist. As today's focus is on the gold-fringed mason bee, I thought you might like to know a little bit more about how this solitary bee makes its nest. So here's a glimpse into the inside of some of the snail shells. The females can lay up to 17 eggs in a straight line or side by side, depending on the shape of the shell. You might also be wondering though, but how does the solitary bee know which nest is hers? Well, some scientists think that they cover the shell surface with patches of leaf pulp, like the photo there on the top right. Can you see it? It's the one where there's loads of green stuff on top of the shell. Well, that way, they can let other females know that this shell is occupied. Solitary bees are really interesting, and we really don't know much about them compared to the honeybee or the bumblebee. So this is why we really need scientists to help understand more about bees and other living things so that we can protect them, especially in this changing world.
Solitary bees pollinate more flowers than any other group of insects or birds, ensuring that our local plants are healthy and productive. Pollination is how plants produce flowers and fruits, and many insects, including bees, pollinate our flowers, our hedgerows, our trees, and our crops, the food that we eat. Bees are really important to make sure we keep on growing healthy and delicious food. But our bees are in trouble. Since 1980, more than half our bee species in Ireland have suffered huge declines. Today, 1/3 of our 99 bee species are threatened with extinction. And the main reasons for this is habitat loss and climate change. Bees and insects don't like change. They love routine. And it is really important for them that the seasons, autumn, winter, spring and summer, come and go when they are meant to, and that the weather stays the same. If the environment starts to change, then this causes big problems for our insect friends. If the warm weather comes too soon, bees will wake up early from hibernation, and because the flowers have not yet come out, the bees will go hungry with no food to eat. Bees and insects find it hard to live in extreme weather like storms and floods, or snow and frost, when it should be warm. In the last 30 years, we have lost around 30% of all our insect species due to habitat loss and climate change here in Ireland. In 2019, there was a report on the effects of climate change that highlighted that up to 1 million individual species are in danger of extinction. That is such a big number. One of the problems I have is while I know 1 million is a lot, I actually don't know how to visualize such a large number, and this stops me from fully understanding the size of the problem. But what has this got to do with Osmia orlante, you might ask? Well, for me, the relationship between Osmia orlante and the snail shells that she makes her nest in represents a creative and sensitive approach to living within her environment. So what we want to do is to produce 1 million snail shells, each one representing an endangered species. And when we combine all these shells, they will produce an artwork that will represent all these different species. And when people see this artwork, they can see exactly the size of the problem. Now, obviously we can't make 1 million shells here today, but we can begin that process. And we are asking you guys to help us with this project. What we are inviting you to do is to produce your own snail shell and take a photograph of it and send it to us so that we can use it in our artwork. Because we need your help to produce this artwork that highlights how important all our pollinators are for our environment. Now I'm going to introduce you to my friend Mairead Stafford, who's going to show you how to make a snail shell out of clay. Or you could use plasticine or Play-Doh if that's what you have handy.
Hi guys, my name is Mairead Stafford and I'm an artist here in Wexford. I'm so delighted to be involved with Mark in this amazing project to help protect our biodiversity here in Ireland and to protect the solitary bee. So this morning I went out to find a little bit of inspiration and I found some really cool twigs that you can find in your back garden, or something like a little fern leaf which impressed in the clay will give some really cool designs. You could also use something like a seashell or a pine cone, but even something as simple as a feather would do the trick. If you get stuck and you can't find anything, don't worry. A simple toothpick will do the job as well, or a sharp pencil. So I hope you found your inspiration. I have mine. I have this really cool fern, and this is going to create some really beautiful impressions on my snail shell. So I also have my ball of clay here, which is just about half the size of the palm of my hand, because if it's any bigger, it's too hard to roll. So you really want to make sure it's not too big when you start off. So I'm going to gently roll it in the palm of my hand initially, about 4 or 5 times, just to make sure that that shape is nice and round, okay? Might give it one more time. And that looks pretty good, okay? Then we're going to create a cone shape. And how we do that is we make a little bit more pressure on one side than on the other. And we just bring it out so that it's narrower at the top and wider at the base. I will do another little bit on it. So again, you'll see it's narrower at the top and wider at the base. And that should be just okay then. So then I'm going to get my leaf and I'm going to put this down onto the board, and I'm going to go right across the pattern with my piece of clay. So it's good to go at it at an angle because you'll get more length across the actual twig or leaf that you have. And I'm going to make sure I put enough pressure all the way along, because if you don't put enough pressure, the pattern won't come out. Okay, and I might do it one more time just to make it even more intense, the patterns. So this is how it looks. You can see there's delicate patterns there of the fern, and it's looking really cool. So then I'm going to grab my narrower side and I'm just going to taper it out a little bit more. Just thin it out so it's already becoming a little bit of a shape of a spiral. And just tighten that curl in so it's like a spring fern when they come out. Do you know that shape? And bring it all the way down right to the base. That's it there. So we then get our pencil and we put a little bit of pressure into the center of the base, not too deep, but around about 1 centimeter thickness, and wriggle it all the way around so it's creating a nice hole, an entrance hole for our bee. So this time we're just going to use a simple toothpick to create some amazing patterns. And this little guy can do an enormous amount of designs, and all from your imagination. So we have our ball of clay in our hand again, and it's half the size of your palm of hand. And we're going to give it a nice little roll to make it nice and round, okay? I'm going to go again. And make sure it's nice and round. Okay, and then we're going to create a cone shape. So we're going to put a little bit of pressure on one side more than the other, and it gets wider at the base and narrower at top, and then again wider at the base and narrower at the top, and one last time wider at the base and narrower at the top. So then we can create some really cool designs. So we're just going to go the full length of this cone with our toothpick. And then we're just going to go with some simple crosses across this line. Doesn't look like it's much yet, but when it's finished, wait till you see. It'll be really cool. Okay, so if you can see that, it's a very, very nice pattern. So then I'm going to grab my narrower side and I'm just going to taper it out a little bit more. Just thin it out so it's already becoming a little bit of a shape of a spiral. And just tighten that curl in. And bring it all the way down right to the base. That's it there. So this is my little snail shell, and I hope you like it.
When you have made your snail shell, we would love it if you could take a photograph and send it to us at this email address. So I wanted to finish today by saying it's very important that we help our bees by providing habitats where they can live. These are areas where they can make a safe home and will have enough food to feed their families. Gardens, grasslands, sand dunes, bogs, woodlands, parks and hedgerows are all very important. All these different kinds of spaces give the bees good places to nest and a choice of things to eat. We can stop mowing our gardens and grassy areas too regularly. Manicured lawns are like a barren desert for our bees and they can't find safe areas to nest. We can plant pollinator-friendly plants in our gardens, our schools and in all our grassy areas because our bees need pollen-rich flowers in bloom from early spring right through to late autumn. I would just like to finish today by saying thank you so much for participating in our project. And I'm very excited to see what beautiful shells you make today.
Hi everyone, my name's Adam and I've been asked 3 questions about the biology of birds. The first question was, how do robins puff up their bodies when they get cold? So birds have lots of different feather types. Some they use for flying, but others, called their down feathers, they use to keep warm, and these are really soft and fluffy feathers that are close to their body. So on a cold day, the robin can kind of control these feathers to trap more warm air against its body, and it's really similar to the way people get goosebumps on a cold day. The second question then is, do birds see colour in the same way that people do? So people see the colours of the rainbow, so that we see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. And birds can see all of these colours and more though. They can also see what it's called infrared and ultraviolet light. And these are colours that are completely invisible to people. The final question then is, do birds pee? So birds, just like people, need to get rid of the waste out of their bodies. They tend to combine their waste into more of a paste than a liquid, and they do this to save on water.
Hi, my name is John Yearsley. I'm a lecturer at University College Dublin, and the Children's House in Stillorgan have asked me why the sky is blue. Well, the colour comes from the sun. As the sun's rays pass through the air in the atmosphere, they get scattered, and we see that as the light of the sky. But the sun's yellow, not blue, so why is the sky blue?
So although the sun looks yellow, it's actually made up of lots of different colours of light. And you can see these if you take a CD and you reflect the sun onto a white wall, you'll split up sunlight into all its different colours. So here you can see I made a little rainbow going from reds and oranges through greens to blues. And these different colours of light, they interact differently with the atmosphere. So the gases in the atmosphere, it's primarily oxygen and nitrogen, they really like to scatter blue and green light, whereas they tend to ignore yellow and red light. So in this kind of scattering, it's given a name, it's called radio scattering. And so the reason why the sky is blue is that it's only scattering a little bit of the light from the sun, only the blue and green parts. And the red and yellow keep on flying through without being scattered.
So now you know why the sky is blue. And you also know why the sun is yellow and sunsets tend to be reds and oranges, because the blue and green parts of the light from the sun has been scattered away in the atmosphere, leaving mainly reds and yellows. 2 for the price of 1. What a great question. Thanks everyone.
Have you ever wondered how and why do bees sting? Originally, their ancestors used to be parasitic, meaning females would use this sharp appendage to inject their eggs into another insect. But as they've evolved into the fluffy bees that we know today, they no longer use this for laying eggs and actually use it as a defense mechanism instead. And this is why only female bees can sting and male bees can't sting at all. A bee stinger is sharp and small like a needle and contains a sac full of venom at the top within the abdomen of the bee. So when a bee feels that it or its colony is threatened, it'll pierce our skin or another surface with the stinger, and venom will flow from the sac through the stinger and into our skin, which is what we feel pain from. And what happens to the bee after this depends on the type of bee. So for example, honeybees have an extra hook in their stinger, which gets caught in our skin and will pull the whole stinger out of the bee along with some of its intestines. So that's why honeybees can only sting once in their lifetime and will die after they do. Bumblebees, however, do not have this hook in their stinger and can sting multiple times throughout their life. They will only do this if they feel threatened, however, and usually will be happy out when they're foraging for food for their colony.
Hi, my name is Susanna. I'm a lecturer at the University College in Dublin, and I got a question from the Educate Together school in Rathfarnham here in Dublin. And the question is, why are some plants toxic? So as you might know, some plants you can actually not eat, and they are toxic. Either the whole plant or some parts of the plant, like the fruit, or the leaf, or the flower. But why is that? If you think about it, an animal, if it is threatened, it can either run away or it can fight off its foe. But a plant can't do that. It doesn't have legs to run away. It doesn't have arms to fight its foe. So some plants, for that reason, have developed thorns or spines. But a lot of plants actually produce chemicals to deter actually animals from eating their leaves or eating their fruits or eating their flowers. But not all chemicals are toxic equally to humans and to animals. For example, cacao is yummy for us, so if we eat chocolate, that's completely fine. But there's actually a chemical in the chocolate that makes it really toxic to dogs. So do not feed any chocolate to your dogs. We can actually use many of those plant toxins as medicine, for example, against asthma or even cancer. But don't go out into the garden and eat just any plant or leaf or berry. Always ask an adult whether it is safe to eat what you find in nature. Thank you so much for your question. Bye-bye.
Hello, my name is Rainer, and one of the questions we got most frequently asked is why different flowers have different colors. And indeed, one of the most beautiful aspects of flowers are their different colors. Some flowers are yellow, others are red, and again others are violet or purple. Now why is this? One explanation for this is the animals that visit the flowers. Bees, for example, can really see very well blue and purple light. So they tend to visit purple flowers really often. But they can't see red light very well, so they tend to not visit red flowers so often. Butterflies, on the other hand, they like yellow flowers, for example. So different animals prefer different colors, and that's why different flowers have different colors. We can get an idea of how a bee sees flowers by putting clear blue Lego bricks over the flashlight of a mobile phone. The blue Lego bricks don't let the red light through anymore that the bee cannot see. And then we can use this flashlight to look at red and purple flowers. Now what happens then is that the red flowers, they look very dark, almost black. The purple flowers are easily recognized. So that is how the bee sees it. The bee sees the purple flowers really well, but it can't really see the red flowers very well. Next time you see a flower, maybe take a few minutes, watch it, and see which insects are visiting this flower. And then maybe watch another flower of another kind and see which insects are visiting that flower.